Come and dream with me.
Hello and welcome to What Do You Want to Watch, the Explosion Network's premier media podcast. Every fortnight we get together to talk about TV, movies, and online content and help you answer the question, how do you improve on a lightsaber? You make it foldable. I'm your host, Ashley Hobley. Joining me today is Dylan Blight.
Did you see that Twitter video where someone CGI'd it so it turns into a lightsaber, like a
Swiss Army knife?
Swiss Army knife, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a cool thing.
Yeah, that's pretty great. And also joining us is Nicholas Pryor.
Immediately regret it because I've just been spoiled about all of Star Wars.
What, you did watch the teaser?
No.
Well, it's not a spoiler. Apparently the things in Rebels or Resistance.
I haven't watched that either.
Who are you? No, I'm not saying it.
Yeah.
But Mandalorian trailer looks pretty good.
So you watch that, but not the teaser for
Yeah.
Rise of the Skywalker.
Wasn't even a fucking teaser.
It was a couple of extra shots. It was
was
like
like-
4 shots.
It's enough shots that someone's gifed them all on the internet already.
Though I did like the traffic jam of all the Star Destroyers.
Oh my fucking god.
Son of a bitch. This is why we don't have trust.
This
This is why I'm only tolerable for one podcast a
you threw
fortnight.
Ash so far, he just had that look on his face of like, how does the show continue?
Yeah, so if you want to hear more about that and some other stuff from D23, you can check in your podcast feed. Me and Dylan did a broken news report about D23, all the Marvel and the Star Wars and the other Disney Plus stuff, including a lot, way more than I expected about Lizzie McGuire. But on this episode...
Hey, that was the biggest news of the show. Biggest news of the show.
On this episode, we'll be talking about everything in our watch history.
Lizzie
We'll be
McGuire.
talking about... we'll be talking about other news. And then we'll be talking about the movie we ended up watching, Stories We Tell. But let's just jump into it. One of the biggest movies of the last few weeks. Long awaited. I think it was a month after it released in the US. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Can I just quickly say that because this is once again, I have to point this out every time it happens. You start saying this, I'm like, what's coming out that's so big? And then you're like, I'm like, oh,
been
that
so long
was
ago.
I have watched that like 2 days after we recorded the last episode, so it has been that long. Yeah, okay, continue.
Yeah, it has.
It's like ages ago.
Yeah, it feels like a while ago. You've both watched it. Dylan's got a review up on explosionnetwork.com. So, Nick, what are your feelings
And
on the
I
film?
do not.
Yeah.
I liked it. I definitely liked it, but there's certain elements of it that I just can't reconcile with myself. But it's really, really hard to tackle with those points without spoiling it.
It's a hard movie to discuss in general because there's no story. So discussing the story, it'll spoil whatever little story there is.
And also not knowing the events about Sharon Tate, I don't know if that would improve or... Yeah, I don't know. It'd be completely different experience not going in with that full knowledge.
I don't understand how you watch the movie without knowing about Sharon Tate.
I've seen a lot of discussion about it that, like, a lot of Europeans don't really... It's, like, not as big out of the Americana sphere, I guess.
It's one of those weird things because, like, I'm now on the side... When I was originally going to write my review, I was trying really hard to not be super spoilery on, like, what happens to Sharon Tate, because I'm like, is that a spoiler to say that? But then I'm like, well, it's not, because it's history, and the history is literally the driving force of the movie at times. In case you don't know, Sharon Tate was horribly murdered in 1969, whatever it was, August, some shit like that, by followers of the Charles Manson gang, cult, whatever you want to call it. And when you watch this movie, if you are pretty up to date or knowledgeable on that, which I am. I've watched a lot. I've watched several documentaries on it, read lots about it, seen different movies cover it, all sorts of things. I've watched movies on Charles Manson, several of those as well. So
I've got a lot of these albums.
There was a stage in high school where I became. No, yes, well, actually, somewhat. Like I was watching a lot of serial killer documentaries and stuff like that. So I did watch my.
Not concerning at all.
No, yeah, I did watch my fair share. Well, it was interesting when you find out about it. You're like, what the fuck? Like, how's that happen? Like, what's the story behind that? But yeah, so I'm watching this movie and watching Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. As much as it's Sharon Tate is played by Margot Robbie in the movie, as much as she isn't the main character, it's the driving force behind the movie, as I described it in my review, is it does feel like there's this ticking clock constantly. And I personally found the movie scary to watch, or at least like tense, because I felt like as it continued, I was so scared of where it's going to go. Now, we're not going to spoil where it goes, of course. I'm not going to say if I was relieved or horrified or whatever by the ending of it, because that in itself is it's a spoiler. It's certainly entertaining, yeah. But yeah, I thought the movie was quite tense constantly because I was so worried about how Tarantino was going to handle this completely horrific thing. And then it did make me wonder how someone who knows nothing about the Sharon Tate murders would watch this movie. Like if it's a completely different fucking experience, you know?
Yeah, it would be very confusing for somebody who has no idea about it.
And also the movie is just full of, it's like a Kevin Smith movie.
It's an homage.
It's Tarantino's version of a Kevin Smith movie. And by that, I mean it's full of pop culture references, but the pop culture references are from the 60s.
And it also did have Kevin Smith's daughter in it as well.
Well, yeah, there's that as well. Tie it in again.
So it's so super like a Kevin Smith movie.
all the references, the TV shows that Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt's characters, who Leo's this actor in the movie and Brad Pitt plays his stuntman. All the movies they're going and talking about and whatever else, they're all real. They interact with real actors. Well, they're played by other actors, but they interact with real people. And a lot of the movie, once again, I'm trying to dodge spoilers, but a lot of the movie is just Leo kind of either talking to people about his movies or like being on set and acting. And there's literally a very long part in the movie that is just you watching Leo do a scene. And I guess that may bore people, but it's like, it's.
I think it was the best part.
The movie is an experience, and it's kind of why if I had more, I'm very tempted if I ever find myself with 3 hours spare with literally nothing else to do, kind of go watch it again, because I do think it's shot very well, and it's like this magical portal into the 60s. Like it's all put together wonderfully, and just watching these scenes play out is what you love about the movie. But it's the least Tarantino movie, I'd say.
Oh, 100%. It's and it's also it's got quite a long run time, but it felt like it went really quickly.
I didn't feel like it dragged. That's for sure.
No, not at all. The breakneck pace.
2 hours 41 is the full runtime, so definitely not a short film. But all Tarantino movies are quite long. But yeah, if you go into this expecting a typical Tarantino movie, you will be sorely disappointed, I feel. You know?
Yeah, Ashley.
Well, here's the thing. I was on Twitter and I got Where It Goes spoiled for me. So
how? I haven't even seen anyone talk about it.
Someone was making arguments about the film and how I opened up, looked at the thread, and there it was.
Well, that was... You idiot. Why would you open up and look at the thread?
Because I was interested.
Self-inflicted.
Yeah, kind of self-inflicted. Yeah, so...
Well, I know
yeah, so
a lot of people have problems with the ending. I get why people discuss it, because it's like... some people hate it, some people love it, but it's impossible to talk about which side you lay on without spoilers, I feel. So I can't really say which side I follow.
Yeah. I feel like it would be a different experience, obviously, going into it knowing how it goes. Because you talked about this tension throughout the entire film. That's going to be completely missing this second. My first time, your second time through.
Yes.
How's it going to play? Is it going to play differently? Yeah.
I 100% feel like this is one of those movies where it's you kind of owe it 2 watches, especially if you're viewing it the way I was, which was very tense experience, wondering where it was going to go. Because now that I do know, it will play very, very differently, I feel.
Yeah. Nick, you made another trip to the cinema and you watched the Australian film Danger Close: The Battle of Long Tan. What is the Battle for Long Tan for people who don't know?
Battle Long Tan was a battle in the Vietnam War in 1966, August, where the Australian base in Nui Dat was under a mortar fire. Then the next day they went out to see where they are, and a company got attacked by a whole battalion on the way to capture Nui Dat, and it's basically a endurance, I guess. There wasn't many of them left after the end of it, but yeah, I really quite enjoyed it. I went with a lot of my friends that I wargame with on a Tuesday night, and one of them there is a major or semi-retired major in the armed forces, and he served with a few of the guys that were in that battle, and he said it was quite an accurate portrayal. Like, they Hollywooded it up quite a bit, but I would say it's, barring Gallipoli, I think it's one of the best Australian-made war movies as well. Cool. Travis Fimmel was played Travis Fimmel. Like, he's got that twitchy kind of, like, I don't know, if you've ever seen him in anything, he plays it pretty much the same. But
the lead in Vikings, for those.
Yes, yeah, the Australian actor who used to be a Calvin Klein model, I believe. But yeah, it's a war movie through and through. Like, if you're not interested in that kind of thing, I wouldn't bother go see it. But for someone who is into war movies, it's a lot better than I thought it was going to be.
Yep. Did quite well at the box office, from what I can remember.
No, I don't believe it did. It was filmed all in
Did
Queensland
better than
too.
Midsummer.
Side tangent. I'm fucking pissed off that nowhere's showing Drag to Cross Concrete.
Literally nowhere showing it?
Really?
No,
Nowhere near me. Closest is Sydney.
Yeah, I didn't expect to get that one, so.
Move somewhere better.
Are you going to go watch it and then are you, Ash?
No, probably not. In protest. Not because I don't want to. It's in protest.
You're a big fan of Old Mate, whatever his name is.
Old Mate, whatever his name is, in the cell block, something and nothing. And
I would love to sit Ash down and have him watch the last half hour of what's the Western one called?
Bone Tomahawk.
Yeah, Bone Tomahawk. I'd love to see Ash react to the last half hour of that movie.
Maybe that might be
Kofi.com/explosion.
It's one of the. I'm thinking about it now. I'm like, I think that was the last time a movie actually made me kind of be like, that might be too far.
So Dylan, you and I both saw the latest movie from Japanese director Makoto Shinkai, and made by Comics Wave Films. Weathering with You, the follow-up to the massive hit Your Name, pretty much telling a story of a runaway who meets up with a girl who just so happens to be able to just stop the rain, I guess is her powers.
Control the weather.
Kind of.
She's a weather girl.
She's a sunshine girl. I think it's one of the most beautiful looking animated films I've seen in a long time. I think it's probably even animated better than Your Name, which is saying something.
Is it animated better than Spider-Man?
Best Japanese animated film I've seen in a while. I feel it doesn't quite hit the story beats or strength that Your Name had, but it's still very, very good. There are some odd story beats and coincidences and that kind of thing, but overall it's a super enjoyable experience and well worth checking out in my opinion. Again, just the fact that Tokyo is constantly raining in this movie is just having to animate that rain constantly would have been a real pain, and It looks great. And it's got one of the
Well,
best depictions of a Big Mac on film. Tell you what.
In animation, all you do is you drag a rain GIF and put it overlay everything else.
No, that's not how it works.
That's how movie making happens. I find your comment about it being so good looking interesting because I think the movie itself is interesting because its depiction of Japan or Tokyo, whatever is actually kind of depressing. When usually all these movies make it out to be very sunny and bright and colors and beautiful and whatever else, and this movie was just it's raining, it's shit. Literally most of the places you go in the movie, like most of the places they go in the movie are like dark corridors and like alleyways where fucking people are trying to get girls to do prostitution and whatever else. Like I felt like after. Really? You don't think that's literally you follow a main character who's like sleeping in the streets for the first part of it and whatever else? I just thought it was interesting that this. Even then, after that, like I felt like this was a much darker movie than Your Name in a lot of ways. Even the way it looked, like story wise, the way it looked, everything like that. Not saying it's a bad thing. I just thought it was like an interesting contrast. I thought like Your Name is a much more just like happier movie.
Yeah.
Throughout, I felt like it was a much more happier experience. It gave off a much more brighter tone throughout the whole movie. Story-wise, it's got its ups and downs with characters' emotions or whatever, like this one does. But tonally, I just felt like I was happier. Yeah, I enjoyed this. I would agree with what you said. There's some like plot stuff that happens that's very like coincidental, just for the sake of getting from A to B, I guess.
Where they want to go, yeah.
Yeah, but I enjoyed the characters and the overall story, and I thought the ending was interesting, and that's its own sort of discussion, I guess. But yeah, the ending went in a direction I didn't actually think I thought they weren't going to go there, but then they did, and I was like, okay, well, that's interesting.
Yeah,
sure.
Bold choice.
Yeah.
And yeah, interestingly, it's been selected as Japanese entry for the best international feature film for this year's Academy Awards. So,
well, did you see it also
we'll
shot in? I can't remember what position, but shot into top 10 Japan movies, like money wise.
Yeah, I think so
already. Which is interesting because, of course, Your Name is the number one. So this is down the top 10 as well, apparently.
It's catching up. I don't think it'll quite hit those numbers. It's like you said, it's not as positive a movie, so I don't think there'll be as many repeat.
Is it a direct sequel, like with the same characters?
No, I would call it a spiritual successor.
Right.
Although, spoilers, they reuse the character models in the film of the characters from Your Name. Like, for just tiny roles, but
it's a fucking asset grab.
There's some similar. It feels like a sequel in like some theme ways to Your Name, I guess. Like, and it's still like a romance at heart and other things like that. So it's not like a proper sequel, but it's like it's what you would call a spiritual.
Thematically, there are moments that are eerily similar to Your Name as well. So not surprising, but yeah. Definitely, this director is going to be one to clearly watch everything he does from now on. So, yeah. Dylan, you watched another Japanese thing. Watched a couple episodes of The Naked Director.
Another
Why
Japanese thing when the history of Ashley has been fucking obliterated with anime.
yeah, fuck you. You've watched another Japanese
Dylan, you
thing.
fucking weeb.
Meanwhile, you're over here and your fucking Trakt history is just like...
We'll get to that in a second.
10 seasons of every anime ever somehow in one day. Fucking ridiculous. So I'll quickly get the guy's name here. It's IMDb. Toru Murashanis? So this guy basically kickstarts the porn industry in Japan. I did Wikipedia.
Sounds like your kind of show.
Well, I watched the trailer and I'm like, this looks interesting. I'll watch this. And then I started watching it, and it's a bit more comedic than I would have liked. I would have actually just liked a much more straight telling of the story somewhat, but they play it up for laughs somewhat here and there, which sure, it works. I'm going to go back and finish it. I'm enjoying it enough to go back and finish it, but I guess the story is like somewhat crazy as it is, and I Wikipedia'd some stuff that's happened so far. Like, surely that didn't happen, but it did, because it's just weird how this guy goes from being really shy at the start, and he's trying to sell English dictionaries or whatever, like door knocking to sell English dictionaries to people in Japan. Like, hey, you need to learn to understand English. That's the way the world's going. It's like set in the 70s or something, and everyone's turning down. And then somehow he loses his job, stumbles into this guy who's selling porno videotapes illegally, because all this is illegal in Japan. And then he's like, I can help with this. I've suddenly discovered how good I am at selling stuff. And then he ends up just one by one kind of setting up all these porno shops all over Japan. And then from there, he gets involved with actually video making and being the one holding the camera and directing them all. And a lot of it's batshit crazy, and all of it's illegal too. So there's like this crime element to it where he's like kind of becoming this porno godfather, where he's like got money coming down from everywhere. But at the time, pornography like this was illegal in Japan. So the last episode I got up to, the cops kind of came into his house and tried to catch him, and he ran off. So yeah, I read one IMDb review where someone's like, the Breaking Bad of Japan, and I was like, calm the fuck down. Like, take a chill pill. But yeah, it's interesting. I just wish it was a much more like actual down to earth telling of the story, because it is interesting, I feel. Well,
to get on the rest of my Japanese anime train.
Yeah.
All right. So the bulk of it is I've got up to date on My Hero Academia.
Where was you up to?
I was like halfway through season 3. Now I'm at the end of season 3. But I decided to just start from the beginning, because I think I was watching the sub version before, and now I'll just watch the dub so I can do something else at the same time. So watch the dub version of My Hero Academia. Season 3, I think I've talked about the first previous seasons on here. It's pretty much like an X-Men-esque. There's a school that teaches kids how to use their superpowers and become heroes, that kind of thing. The third season is good, continues to work pretty well. There's some really good emotional moments throughout the season. A certain hero has to retire, and that causes ramifications throughout the whole universe, because he's like the best hero in the universe.
Best hero of them all.
Yeah. And then, it's just really good. I don't know what else to say. The animation's really good.
Have you watched that movie? Where's the movie fit in?
No, I haven't watched the movie. I think, was it? Yeah, I'm trying to find it, but I haven't watched it. It wasn't on Anime Lab. So...
See, I don't know where I'm up to in the anime, because I watched the first 3 episodes and I was like, this is interesting. And then I went and started reading the manga. And now I'm like six volumes into the manga, so...
It sounds like that Kurt Russell superhero school movie.
Sky High.
Except it does. Sky High. It does sound like that, except it's better and it's more creative, I guess. The characters are more interesting.
Russell?
It doesn't have Kurt Russell. All Might could be Kurt Russell.
Nah.
He could, with that de-aging CGI, they could make Kurt Russell look like All Might.
Like Ego, the Living Paladin.
All Might's played by Weird Al Yankovic in my headcanon.
Okay.
What?
Yeah.
What? You don't see it?
No. So apparently season 4 is coming in October, so hitting that. Gotta be hitting that. And then 2 animes that I've caught up on that just debuted this year. First up, Dr. Stone, which is a anime in which everybody in the world has been turned to stone suddenly someday in the modern day. And then we jump cut to like 5,738 AD. And a guy has suddenly comes back to life in a stone world in which everything's pretty much gone back to the Stone Age. And then he tries to...
How does he know what year it is?
He was he was counting the entire time.
But wasn't he stone?
Yeah, but his consciousness was still there. And because he worked on keeping his consciousness conscious, he stayed conscious the whole time.
This doesn't sound very believable to me.
Are you conscious?
But yes, he counted the entire time he was kept in stone. So that's how he knows what year it is. But anyway, it's sort of a story about getting back civilization. He's a super sciencey kind of dude, so he knows how to do all these cool science shit, how to make gunpowder and that kind of thing, and how to make soap and different things to start to rebuild the world again. And then obviously he finds a way to revive other people who have been turned to stone, and things happen from there. It's really interesting. I do find it highly amusing. At the end of every episode, they put up a disclaimer talking about foraging, because obviously they're foraging for like berries and different shit, and they say how dangerous it is and how they shouldn't do it without getting the proper training. You know, just in case you go out and forage and die from berries, you can't blame it on this TV show. And then the other anime I watched,
blaming it on anything.
Yeah, your family won't be blaming it on anything. Then the other anime I watched was Fire Force, which is about a world in which people suddenly combust, like human combustion, and turn into
holding in their farts.
That could be the secret. They turn into these demon-like figures called Infernals, who sort of have fire powers and shit and just wreak havoc. And then there's all these firefighters that actually firefight, and they fight the Eternals and the Infernals and try and this crew town. Firehouse 8 is the crew you follow in this this anime. All these anime are weird as shit. But they're trying to discover the secret.
I was just thinking, is this stuff as weird, or when Ash explains anime, I was just like, you make it sound so much weirder than what it is, or it really is just that weird.
No, it is really this weird. This Fire Force Company 8 is the crew you follow. They've all got these fun sort of characters. There's this one guy who's the newbie, who's got fiery feet to help fight they've all these pyrokinesis people have been populating the world since the Infernals came in, so they've all got these different fire-based powers. And they're just trying to find out the secrets behind why the Infernals are still around and that kind of thing. So again, it's very pretty, very well animated. Probably got a bit more news because obviously with the firefighting thing, it got they stopped showing it for a little while after the arson attack over in Japan for a few weeks. So yeah. So yeah, definitely worth checking out. I think it's Dr. Stone is like 7 episodes so far, and this is 8, at least on Anime Lab, which is where I've been watching it. And of course, if you don't trust my opinion, both Joel Grattan from Anigame and Dash from Dash Game and Tom have both highly regard these 2 series. So, plug. Nick, you've also been watching a lot of TV.
Yes, I have.
Yep, you've watched Taboo, the Tom Hardy series.
What anime is that?
Tom Hardy period drama. I think 1814, I believe it is. He comes back from Africa just after his father's died, and everyone thinks he was dead, and he gets bequeathed this piece of land in Canada, but it's very essential to both the Americans and the British because it's the end of the War of 1812 between Britain and America, and this particular piece of land is important in drawing out the borders between Canada and America. But he plays this kind of, I don't know, weird, mysterious kind of character. Like there's an element of black magic about him, and he's very manipulative, and yeah, it's quite good. Quite a good show. Unfortunately, there hasn't been a second season yet, so I don't know what the hold up is with that. I don't know if it was cancelled or something like that.
Tom Hardy's too fucking busy.
Yeah, but yeah, it's quite good. It's different. It's a very period drama kind of thing and mysterious in a way. Yeah, I don't know what more I can say about that.
Cool. Then you also watched a show that we mentioned, I think, last episode, Warrior.
I did.
You watched the pilot of that? What did you think?
Did. I watched it not because I've totally forgot we even talked about it on the show, but a guy from work told me. No, honestly, he told me about it, and I put it on, and as I got 20 minutes into it, I was like, "Oh, this is so much like fucking Banshee." And then I looked it up, and it's by the same bloke. So, yeah, it is basically early 19th century Banshee, really, where a Chinese guy comes over on a boat, gets wrapped up into this gang, and he's trying to find this particular person, and he's a badass, he kicks everyone in fights, and he gets all the girls and stuff like that. It's just...
It's based on a Bruce Lee thing. I'll have to look up the official... Hold on. I don't know what it credits it as. Yeah, it says writing credits. Bruce Lee's credited for 13 episodes. I can't remember exactly what the deal was. I think it was something he wrote that they've expanded into a full series or something like that. But yeah, Bruce Lee.
The other thing about it is a cross between Kung Fu Hustle and Banshee.
Cool.
I won't keep watching it because it's very much in the same vein as Banshee as we talked about the other day. So...
Okay.
Meanwhile, I'm very much looking forward to starting it soon.
So... Stay tuned for more Warrior talk. Then you also watched The Nick, the Steven Soderbergh series starring Clive Owen.
I hadn't realised it was by Steven Soderbergh until the credits at the end. I was like, there you go. I originally watched 1 or 2 episodes back when it was on Presto, when that was still a thing, and I really enjoyed it then, and once it went off that, I had no way to watch it, and then now it's on Foxtel and I started watching it. It's set in the year 1900 about a hospital in New York, the Knickerbocker Hospital, which the Nick, and it's about, basically, it's a medical drama based in that year and like the advances in medicine and troubled characters like Clive Owen is a opium addict, and the hospital board gets this black doctor in, and there's racial friction and that kind of stuff, and he goes and does his own thing. But yeah, it's quite good. I mean, if you're into medical shows and or history, I definitely recommend checking this out. I don't know if it's only 2 seasons, and I know it got cancelled, but I don't know if it ends on a satisfying ending or not. But I'm enjoying the journey so far.
Cool.
It was part of when Steven Soderbergh spat at one point and was like, "That's it. I'm retiring from film.
Retired.
I'm not making movies
I'm doing
anymore.
the air quote thing.
Yeah, I'm only gonna go make TV shows." And then he went off and did the Nick and whatever else for a couple of years. And then he was like, "And Logan Lucky."
Yeah,
yeah. And that was when he came back to
and
films.
now I'm just going to film everything on iPhone,
movies.
so now it doesn't count.
Yeah. This is my example. Every time I hear that, to just sidetrack for a second, every time Tarantino gets on about retiring for 10 films, I always just think of this Soderbergh thing where I'm like, why did you even need to announce it? Just be like, just go experiment in TV making for a couple of years, and then if after that you're happy there or you want to come back and make a movie, like if you're big enough in your own career, you can make that choice and you can fuck off and do whatever you want for it. You don't need to be like, I'm retiring. Just go make TV. Yeah. Come back if you want. I don't care. Don't make a big deal about it. Don't announce stuff. Do what you need to do.
The only thing I could think of is a business move going, I'm retiring from film and doing TV, and they're like,
to hype up your last
every network's going to go, let's go grab him. But yeah, it's really good. And it's another Cinemax show along with Warrior and Banshee.
Theme. So I watched a documentary on Amazon Prime called Free Meek. It's pretty much, kind of an autobiographical story of the rapper Meek Mills from when he grew up in Philadelphia. He was, I can say now, wrongly charged of a drug possession thing back in the day, and was given 5 months prison, but then 10 years probation. And it kind of follows his struggles with the probation system and how that held him back as a performer, and him constantly having to go back to face the judge who convicted him constantly over minor things and minor indiscretions that were out of his control and that kind of thing, and how pretty much being persecuted because he was black. And sort of interestingly, it follows it up to a point where a lot of influential people like Jay-Z and I think the owner of the Philadelphia 76ers, who was like a big billionaire or whatever, started to get involved and sort of created this free meek movement that eventually led to the creation of the Justice Reformation thing. What is it called? The Reform Alliance, which is working to help at least 1 million people who are unjustly stuck in the criminal justice system in America. It was a really interesting look at. Obviously, I don't know much about Meek Mills, haven't listened to much of his music, but I know he did have his beef with Drake. That's covered in the documentary.
Okay, good.
So
they made up, by the way.
They did. It's just the kind of crazy story of what he's had to go through was kind of riveting to watch. I just binged the 5 episodes in one go, so unsurprisingly. So definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of Meek Mills or you just like, I guess, crime documentaries. I guess it's kind of like it's a weird amalgam of all these different elements. There's some crazy stuff in there. Dylan, I believe you wanted to talk about a certain YouTube channel.
Oh yeah, I forgot about this, eh?
I'm giving you the biggest platform to spread your gospel.
So for the past couple of weeks, I discovered this channel called Corridor Digital, right? And I did the thing that I usually do when I discover something that I really like. I try and force it upon everyone. So I tell you, I'm like, hey, you got to watch this before the next episode. I'm recording. I should do another pimp here since it's tangentially. Stay tuned for Radio Movies, a viewer skew podcast coming very, very soon, where myself, Buddy Watson from dashgamer.com and Ryan Betson from Pop Culturist are doing a podcast all about watching the viewer skew universe of films from Kevin Smith, and that starts September 4th. And the first episode, of course, will be about Clerks. The series is less talking about the movies and reviewing them and more actually discussing topics that spur from the movies themselves.
Plug.
But when I was recording an episode of that, another week as well, like similar thing again, where I'm like, hey, Ryan, you got to watch this. Hey, buddy, you got to watch this. And then Ryan, like next morning or a day later, he messaged me. He's like, holy shit, this channel's so good. I'm like, isn't it? Like, it feels like a win when people are like, tell me that the thing I suggested is good. I'm like, yeah, it is. But yeah, the channel has they have 2 YouTube channels. One of them, they put up a bunch of short films and stuff because they're all a bunch of VFX artists. And their YouTube channel, they'll do like short films and these sorts of things. And then they've got this other channel, which is kind of amalgam of kind of these things where they'll be like, oh, we'll go into John Wick and we'll fix like the gun so the smoke is actually better effects and these sorts of things. Oh, we'll make our own Lion King movie, and we'll make the Civil War scenes realistic where Captain America throws his shield through someone and actually cuts them in half instead of just like bouncing and throwing their body across the room. So they do stuff like that. But then the thing that hooked me in, and the reason I discovered their channel in the first place, is they've started up this new series recently, 2 series. One's called VFX Artists React to Bad and Good CGI, and the other one is Stuntmen React to Bad and Good Stunts in Films. And both of them, I think, are absolutely fantastic to watch because it's funny at times where they'll react to stuff and just like have a joke about it and laugh, but then also at the same time, because they work on stuff, they'll point out stuff and give you trivia and facts about stuff that you may have not noticed before. They'll point out things that you probably would have never thought about before from the VFX angle that a normal cinema going person wouldn't notice at all. Even the stuntman stuff, having a stuntman explain like, oh, this stunt's really super ridiculous and dangerous, even though it doesn't look it because of this reason, this reason, this reason. And I binged, as the quote say, I binged all of these reacts videos in like 2 days, and I was just like, give me more. And now like each week, it's the only YouTube thing at the moment where I'm like, it was like when I was obsessed with the Jack Black stuff for a time there. That was the last thing I remember being like super obsessed with like every Friday being like, oh, new Jack Black video, I got to watch it. And then I kind of got bored of that and I don't watch it much anymore. But this is my thing now at the moment where I'm like, oh, new reacts, got to watch the stuntman reacts or the VFX artist reacts. Yeah, it's super entertaining and super insightful, I think, if you're into the behind the scenes of movies at all.
It's funny that you bring them up because they've been showing up in my YouTube algorithm for a while now, but I just haven't had the time, I guess, to commit to watching one because they're like 15 minutes each or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I think they range, but they're really good.
Yeah.
Did you watch them, Ash?
Yeah, I did watch. I think I don't know. YouTube is terrible. I don't know if they've set up a playlist of them yet. I wish they had. They've been making it so much easier just so I can keep track of which ones I've watched and which ones I haven't. But yeah, they're super informative, funny, amusing. There's some fun facts, like apparently in Jurassic Park, there's one frame in which a dinosaur is completely missing.
Yeah, it's fucking hilarious. It's right at the end where the T-Rex comes in and chomps down on the Velociraptor or whatever. Yeah, and like if you go frame by frame, eventually the dinosaur disappears. And they point out that this missing frame of the dinosaur exists no matter where you watch the movie because unlike the deleting of the Starbucks cup in Game of Thrones, which they deleted that and now that's the fixed version is what's on the streaming and the fixed version will be what's printed to Blu-ray and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because this thing's existed in Jurassic Park for so long. It doesn't matter if you go find the Blu-ray DVD or stream it somewhere, this missing frame's going to be there. So it's
kind of crazy. And the other thing, it kind of ruined the fight from The Last Jedi, with the Praetorian fighters. Yeah.
Yeah, I said, I talked about that one that's one I brought up as an example when I was trying to pitch it to Ryan and Buddy. And I said, Nova Pimp, Alderaan Explosion returning September 14th, something like that. A couple weeks. Alderaan Explosion, go subscribe for that. But I said, there's no way when I don't get to the Last Jedi discussion in that podcast this year that they have changed the way I'm probably going to view that scene because they pointed out so much bad stuff with that fight scene. It's not the way it's shot. It's just the fact all the stuntmen are just like in the background and they've got nothing to do, so they're literally like they're just twirling this stuff around like this, and the stunt guy's like, I fucking hate this scene. Like, yep. And he tells
I think
you
I have to stop watching that.
I mean,
they also did the Batman, Dark Knight Rises. The fight scene with Batman and Catwoman. Yeah, just people just fall down.
Yeah, and there's a guy in the background just falls down, and then like they point out that they probably thought Nolan was probably like, oh, we'll just add in a CGI Batarang later or something, but then they forgot to, so there's a dude in the background that just kind of falls down.
No, and then they explain Nolan just because he's watching on playback.
Yeah, he does it on yeah,
there's no playback, so he can't see how the choreography plays.
Because he records on film.
Yeah, so
yeah,
definitely worth checking out. Also, they've done a bunch of videos. Probably if you've seen the Boston Dynamics videos of the robots sort of fighting back, that's them. They're the ones behind that. So they've been around for a while. I just really never heard of them, or maybe I had watched their stuff like the Boston Dynamics thing, but never actually bothered to go to their channel to check out more stuff. Like the one they put up this week that I watched that was really quite good as well. They got some guy to come in who's a Tom Cruise impersonator, and then they did a deep fake on his face of Tom Cruise, and then they've got this video of basically Tom Cruise coming into the office, and they all act like it's really him, and the guy, because he's an impersonator, gets the voice and the mannerisms and stuff like that down, and it's like, fuck, this deepfake technology is getting too, you can tell it's a deepfake, but it's still like pretty close.
It's fucking close. It's quite ridiculous.
So Nick, you watched a couple of other movies. You watched The Invitation.
Yep, I did.
Feelings?
I quite enjoyed it. It reminds me a lot of that Joel Edgerton movie, the horror. It Comes at Night, I guess. It's very, it's very slow. I saw a lot of people. I haven't seen Rosemary's Baby myself, but I've seen a lot of people kind of related to that as well, where everything happening in the movie just feels kind of off, and you don't know if it's real or not, which I quite enjoyed the aspect about it. It's a psychological horror thriller, I guess. It was on a list that I saw. It's basically a guy gets invited to a dinner party with a bunch of his old friends and his ex-wife and her new partner, and basically it's the first time they've seen each other after some sort of traumatic event that you don't realise, and it's hard to go into it without spoiling it, but it's quite good, I've found. Yeah.
Cool.
Definitely, it's on Netflix, I believe.
On Netflix? Yeah. You also watched The Game with Michael Douglas.
With Michael Douglas and by David Fincher. Directed by David.
Fuck, if I knew this, I would have made sure to watch it this week, because I keep getting nagged to watch this fucking movie and I keep not finding time, but I could have coincided if I knew.
Trakt.tv. Slash bought it.
I need alerts of what Nick's watching popping up on my phone.
I'd bought it quite a while ago. I think it might have been on special or something on the account. And I just decided to watch it because I was in the mood for some psychological horrors, I guess. Actually, it was after I saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I was looking up Rosemary's Baby, and it took me to some list of psychological horrors, so I was like, oh yeah, I'll watch them.
It's a David Fincher movie.
It's David Fincher. It's basically a movie about a augmented reality game, really, where this guy is a real stick in the mud. He's a businessman, like real straight business, no fun in his life, and his brother, played by Sean Penn, buys him a voucher to basically go participate in this augmented reality game, but then...
In 1997.
Well, they were a thing back then, still.
No, just for context for...
Oh, yeah, 1997, so yeah, it's kind of like... But it keeps on getting deeper and deeper and further off the rails, and you don't know if it's another thing, what's really going on. Is it part of the game? Is it real life? Are they fucking with him? Are they really malicious and out to get him and that kind of stuff? And you don't know what's going on. I wouldn't say it's very slow paced and long, and there's something about the way it's filmed. I don't know if it's just because of the technology available, but it's not very good, I guess. Not fidelity, but like quality. It's hard to explain what I mean by that. I found it, I guess, difficult to watch in a way, because it reminds me a lot of, because it takes place at night over the city. It reminds me a lot of the night scenes of the
Game Night.
No, but like the older Batman movies at night, where it's all like a very dark blue, black color palette, and you can't really make out what's going on a lot of the time as well. But
oh, you just mean they had shit lighting back in the
I
day.
guess so, yeah. Now that you put it like that, I guess it's kind of like that. But yeah, like Michael Douglas isn't he's not a good character. Like, it's hard to sympathise with him. I'd definitely watch it if you're into David Fincher stuff, which I looked up after that. I've seen a lot more David Fincher stuff than I thought I had seen.
Well, it's the only Fincher movie I haven't watched, which is why I'm trying to
It's about
get
the
to
only
it
one
soon.
that I hadn't watched either. But yeah.
If I haven't watched all these fucking music videos, but
Oh, no.
I'm not counting them.
No. But yeah, definitely recommend watching it if you have the means. Like, I wouldn't go out and pay $20 to buy it just to watch it, but if you want to rent it or something for one night, it's fine. It's definitely one of my least favourite Fincher movies, I'll put it that way.
Okay.
You reckon you'd put it below Alien 3?
I unironically like Alien 3.
Okay.
So I'm looking at your track now, and it's interesting that you said you were in the mood for psychological thrillers, because you watched The Invitation and you watched The Game.
Yep.
But before that,
Both in one night.
you watched Finding Nemo, another psychological thriller.
That I didn't choose to watch it. We had gone up to my in-laws for lunch, and that was on TV, so we sat down and watched it. So
mean,
I'm
it's
not watching
kind of a
something.
thriller.
I'm not logging it in my Trakt, as you can tell by all the blocks.
It's about a lost child. I think
Yeah.
I compare it a lot to that Hugh Jackman movie from a couple of years ago.
Yeah, Prisoners.
Prisoner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both
Yeah.
Australian actors.
See, there's all these
Yeah.
these characters stuck in this small cell.
through lines. Yep.
They're all going crazy. I mean,
Paul Dano.
yeah, thriller. So that's
Jake Gyllenhaal's in both, I hear.
is he though?
No.
All right, let's move into the mandatory Netflix segment of the show. And of course, speaking of David Fincher, we've all seen season 2 of Mindhunter.
Have you seen it
big-
too, Ash?
I've seen all of Mindhunter. I've been putting in the work.
Jeez.
You're both caught up in the last 2 weeks.
I haven't
Yeah.
seen all of the second season yet. I think I got 3 episodes to go.
Ash did his usual thing of, I haven't watched
Trust
it,
me,
so I've
Ashley,
seen
I
it all.
haven't seen the last
Yeah.
3 episodes.
You're 2 episodes off. Yeah, I really enjoyed the first season. Obviously, I was the last one to catch up on that. It was an interesting build-up, obviously, and then I really enjoyed, obviously, the interrogation, the questioning scenes throughout the series
Yeah.
are probably the most interesting stuff.
Well, that's the show. That is the
Kind
show.
of, yeah.
Like, the show is...
The first season, definitely.
I still feel like the second season has a lot of that. Maybe not as much because it kind of focuses more towards a singular case.
Yeah.
But the show is less about showing you what the killers do and just kind of having these interrogation scenes. And that's the reason I like it, because it builds the terror by literally having you listen to them describe the fucked up shit they've done. It doesn't have to flash to flashbacks of like them doing their fucked up shit. So it's an interview TV show, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, first season, and then it ends on, as Dylan said, a cliffhanger. And then we kick off pretty much a day after the first season ended, even though there was a 2-year gap between production. We see a massive changeover in leadership in the FBI. I feel like they never fully capitalize on the cliffhanger, or, well, I'll just say it. It turns out that Jonathan Groff's character, Holden Ford, had a panic attack at the end of season 1. And in the first episode, he seems to be still struggling with that, but then after that, he seems to be perfectly fine and never has to deal with it again, which is okay.
And he turns into an arrogant ass.
He was always
He
an
kinda
arrogant
was
ass.
always an
No,
arrogant
not
ass.
the first season. You get that arc of him going that way, but this one he just goes full blown ass.
Yeah, because he's already there from the
Yeah.
first season. He
Which
got to being an
I
arrogant
think-
ass.
I don't.
Hurts
He's
his
got
character
some
development.
redeeming elements. He's the one person pushing for this
I don't think he's
Atlanta.
he's not
He's
he's not an unlikable
Case.
character, but he's just he's
he's
arrogant.
not doing it. He's not interested in the Atlanta thing because he's need to find the lost kids. He's doing it because he can apply what he's learning. It's purely selfish.
I mean, you see the last
It's
two
another.
episodes.
It's another way for him to. Well, from what I've seen, another way to him to prove his genius, I guess.
I guess.
I would disagree, given what seeing the whole season through. I think by the end you gathered that he actually does care.
Yeah. So Nick, as someone who hasn't seen all of it, how do you feel about it, and why haven't you finished it?
I haven't finished because we just haven't had the chance to. 'Cause
You've
I'm watching
watched
it with Stacey.
20 different shows.
Yeah, I'm watching them while Stacey's at work,
Oh, okay.
and then Stacey watches.
Oh, you got to
like
wait till
4
Stacey
nights
comes
a
back.
week, so-
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the character development and characterization of characters fell down in season 2. Like, Bill gets the most attention, and then I think Wendy and Ford are just, I guess, afterthoughts in a way.
Bill has the most personal story or backstory,
Yeah,
whereas Holden is completely a plotline solving the case that they're working on of missing children in
Yeah.
Atlanta. So
I guess I just feel like those Ford and Wendy just turned very one-dimensional for me in the second series. Which, I'm not saying I don't like it, I'm enjoying it, but yeah, I don't know. It's not up to the standard of season 1, in my opinion, anyway.
Dylan, your thoughts?
I think it's quite different to the first season, given that they have this more singular focus on this case down in Atlanta with all these.
The season feels kind of cut in half, where you get a few of those interviews, and then they're thrown into this case, and that's all we're focused on for the second half.
Well, yeah, it kind of goes back and forth for the first few episodes, and then the last few are basically all just down in Atlanta. And I think that's fine, considering that's the direction the show's probably going to go as we head towards some more big name serial killer cases. Because I presume the way the show's going to go forward is that you're going to have these two characters become intermingled with like Ted Bundy and whatever the fuck else.
They start applying what they've learned. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if it's a spoiler to say what all the person who all the vignettes is about, but obviously that seems like that would be the show's final season, would be catching the person who the first and second season both do these vignettes at the start of every episode, showing you a certain character who they never credit as who they actually are, I guess, in case people want to. And that's why I say it's a spoiler, because I'm like, they don't actually ever tell you who it is. I'm like, I don't want to say in case people
they
care.
They do in
the
show.
Well, they
say
they do.
A character. They don't say it's that character, though.
They don't say it's that character. They never connect the dots.
Right, yeah.
That's the thing.
Actually, they come pretty close. There's a lot of dots that, if you connect them, you can tell.
The first season, you have no idea, but in the second season, they pretty much...
The character holds up his a photocopy with his symbol on it, so...
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's... Fincher has said previously that in his mind, the show is 5 seasons. That's what they apparently have it planned out as. So, and if you know about that serial killer, you know that serial killer doesn't get caught until
1991.
Quite recently, actually. In
2006, I believe.
Really?
Yeah, it was like...
Yeah.
2005, I think. Yeah, but 6, whatever. So quite recently, really, in the scheme of things. So if that's the last season, that's how far the show has to span, and that means it's got enough time to bump into a bunch of different serial killers on the way before they actually wrap up the big one in the background. So that means each season would focus more on a singular case, I think, as we go forward, and less about the interviewing, which I'm okay with, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like the interviewing didn't become a main focus in the second season. They had the big names of Son of Sam and Charles Manson, but other than that, it just seemed to be kind of filler. The other ones, especially with Wendy and the other guy, when they get sent.
Well, I would actually say that Charles Manson's interesting in this, without spoiling it too much. But you kind of go into a season and he's going to be in it, and it feels like it's going to be this massive big thing, part of the season. And ultimately, it's not really. But the way they use it, tied into the story, and what's happening with Bill and stuff like that, I think they actually make it work really, really well. So they use Manson as a character piece towards our actual characters in the show, instead of just having Manson be there as this, big spectacular, let's just focus on him the entire episode because it's Manson type thing. So I enjoyed the way they did that. And I would actually say that Bill's story this season, much more interesting. And what's her name? The girl?
Wendy.
Wendy. Her story was also much more interesting this season. So I thought both those characters were more interesting. Holden's was whatever. Holden's focus is the Atlanta case. That's kind of what his story is. If he wasn't so obsessed with the Atlanta case, they wouldn't have gotten there in the first place, I feel. Yep. That's kind of what his storyline for the season is. So I would actually say all the characters' stories this season feel stronger to me than the first season, at least more evenly all-rounded, instead of being a heavy focus on Holden and the rest get fucked over in the case. I felt like they put much more attention to other characters this season, and especially seeing the way the season ends, for Bill, that leaves a lot of interesting directions for his character to going into the third season.
Does it end on as much of a cliffhanger as season 1?
No. Well, I don't think it's a big spoiler to say it wraps up the Atlanta case one way or another, and then it kind of just, of course, sets up all right, well,
here's where the characters are.
Who's the next one?
And
Yeah, here's where the characters are at the moment,
here's
and
another vignette.
where do we go next? There's no like big cliffhanger type, like who's dying or who's alive type thing. Yeah,
But yeah, I enjoyed the second season.
So, yeah, before we move on, I just wanted to say I didn't realize. I thought they got actors that looked exactly like the serial killers, but I did a lot of reading afterwards that they did prosthetics on a lot of the actors, especially the Son of Sam guy.
yeah. I was about to say, Son of Sam. That guy has such a unique looking
Yeah.
shape of face. It would be really hard to get someone who looks exactly like him. Yeah.
Yep. How did you guys feel about Charles Manson in this after seeing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Well, we can't really say about spoilers, but I think it's best just to say that Charles Manson.
I think they'll both used appropriately.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's just leave it at that.
Okay. I will say I'm surprised Netflix didn't, like, seeing as there's so much lead time to this season, they didn't capitalize and do like a true crime series like highlighting the serial killers involved, and like maybe do a short Mindhunter, the serial killers series, like documentary thing. That would have been a smart move, I think.
There's probably already enough documentaries on the serial killers that are the focus in these things.
I guess, but I want to be able to.
I think also too I guess there would be a lot of ancillary attention onto it as well, like people looking up that movie and then the show and goes, oh, it's the same actor. Going, I'll watch that, I'll watch this now. But, yeah. It's nothing like major promotion.
Also, I was super blown away. The guy who plays Ed Kemper, Cameron Britton, he was also
a preschool teacher.
He was also in Umbrella Academy earlier this year. I did not realize until somebody posted the two shots next to each other. So that's kind of amusing.
Who's he in Umbrella Academy?
Plays Hazel, one of the two assassins. Not Mary J. Blige guy.
Oh, yeah, no. Now that I'm picturing it in my head, yeah, I can see it without even looking it up. Yeah. Okay. I can hear the voice even. Yeah. That makes sense.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, so that's everything that's been our watch history. Let's move into the news. And the big news for everybody here in Australia, Disney Plus is coming to Australia November 19th. Exactly 1
Is
week.
that the same date?
Okay. Launches in the US November 12th and then comes here November 19th. It will be $8.99 a month or $89.99 a year. For comparison, Netflix is $13.99 a month, Stan is $10, and Amazon Prime is $6.99. I guess we can all just rejoice that we're getting it straight away, especially considering everything they announced at D23. Plus, we know we're going to see The Mandalorian as soon as possible. Dylan, how are you feeling? How did you feel when you saw the story pop up? Thanks to Simon Blackburn over at Take My Tone for hitting us up.
Yeah, I was very happy because I was worried that we would have to wait months or 1, 2, 3, 6 months. I kept getting worried about it, and I was like, what am I going to do if I can't watch The Mandalorian? How do I survive in this world? How am I supposed to continue? But yeah, a week, I'm happy to miss the first episode and wait a week, especially because just tied into the other thing they said, which is that it'll actually release week by week instead of all dropping at once, which means that only having to wait a week means I'm potentially at worst going to have the first episode spoiled, not have the entire show spoiled by the time we get access to it. So it's a less scary world to live in, and I'm happy with it. A week, fine. A week's nothing.
Yeah, it is nothing. Nick, were you surprised by the news that we're getting it so soon?
I was, actually. I didn't think we were going to, but I'm pleasantly surprised that we're getting it a week later.
Yeah. I will also note that what they've said in the Variety broke the story. They said that it will be coming to the US November 12th, along with Canada and the Netherlands, and then Australia and New Zealand the following week. But that's all the countries that have announced so far getting Disney Plus.
Interesting.
So it's crazy that we were lucky enough to be amongst the 5 countries selected to get this product.
Praise be Disney for gracing us with allowing us to subscribe.
Was it you, Dylan, who told me it's because the Netflix numbers subscription numbers are so high
I read
here.
some story where apparently we've got a pretty high subscription rate in Australia. I was reading some story. I can't remember where it came from. I should save the link, but yeah, something about a lot of us. We're pretty subscription heavy here, apparently.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that plays into it, or the other theory I had is that Disney knows how big of pirates we are, and they were like, well,
Yeah.
I think that's probably more accurate. That is the more accurate
yeah.
thing.
Because if they took months to put that shit out here, you know, the Mandalorian would have been the most pirated. Which country pirated the Mandalorian the most? Oh, Australia. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So clearly been tracking Game of Thrones. I think it's interesting. Obviously, Stan and I believe Foxtel both still have deals with Disney. Whether they're set to expire, so whether they get sort of redeemed, are we still going to have the Disney Channel or whatever it is over on Foxtel? What is going to happen with Stan's Disney content that they've been pushing for the last 12
It'll
months? How does that affect Stan? Obviously, in this past,
they just made that deal with Paramount.
Yeah, in the past fortnight, they made a deal with Paramount, pretty much securing everything they make, including some projects that were gonna be on HBO Max, including Looking for Alaska, an 8-part limited series based on John Green's novel, as well as all the Transformers movie, all the Star Trek movies, and all the Mission Impossible and Top Gun films. I mean, that's a good step, but it's not going to make up for the massive amount of Disney content they're going to lose. I think they also got Friends as well, which could be. It's a massive thing in the US. I don't know if it'll have the same impact here, but what impact does this make on Stan?
If they lose Disney, I don't think any. Like, there's no people out there who already subscribe. Maybe there's a handful of people who are subscribing to Stan just to watch Disney stuff, I guess. But like, maybe they subscribe just to watch the Marvel movies. But I really don't think it's that high.
From people that I know that subscribe to Stan, it's not for Disney content. Like, it's there. It's nice that it's there, but it's not the reason they subscribe to it.
Yeah, I find it hard to believe it would be solely for. I'm sure there is some, but I find it hard to believe that it's that.
I find a lot of parents that I know buy Disney movies on DVD anyway, as opposed to watching them through a streaming service.
That's true, but Disney Plus is going to change that, I guess. They won't need to buy the DVDs anymore, but I don't know. I feel like it Stan, especially in the last 12 months, obviously been pushing the Marvel Disney connection to get new subscribers. I feel like that's going to be where they're going to get the hit.
To be fair, they also, when they got all the James Bond movies on Stan, they also pushed that for several months as their big thing for people to subscribe. So, like, whatever it is, when this Paramount thing goes through, they're going to be pushing, the Mission Impossible movies, they're here to watch, and I'll bet you see adverts for that or something. All the Transformers movies. So just go. They've always just used whatever they recently have as an advertisement.
Okay. Are you surprised by the $6.99 price? $8.99 price tag per month? Is that surprising?
I'm not surprised by it, but also don't expect it to stay at that price for longer than 12 months.
I reckon it'll go up after a year.
Yeah. It'll be get them in and then up the price and hope people don't realise that just keep on the subscription.
Well, I think it may. I don't think it's like just up the price to fuck people. I reckon they're actually technically running at a loss.
Yeah, it's
like if you look at all the money they're putting into these original shows, and you're going to tell me $8.99 times X amount of people actually covers that, I'm going to say it doesn't. And so I'm going to say that they're putting it out, running out a loss, or quotation marks, however you want to word that. And then when they up it after 12 months, it'll go up to like $12.99 or something closer to $14.99 or whatever.
I can see that happening.
They can afford to run at a loss for 12 months.
Exactly. Yeah.
Even longer, possibly. I mean, they're Disney. They don't need. If this is their long term.
No, I honestly don't see them running this at a loss for longer than 12 months. Because they're so profit focused. Like doing the thing with Sony.
We'll get into that.
50-50, yeah.
I guess how does this impact your choice in streaming services? Is this going to be a day one purchase? Is it going to?
Yes.
What are the
for
rankings
Mandalorian.
of streaming services in your opinion right now?
I'll always be subscribed to this because I'm pretty sure there's always going to be some new TV show coming out that I want to watch on it, especially since it's week by week, which means that I can't just binge watch something and then unsubscribe. So I'm going to be subscribed for several months to watch something, and then by the time it's done, I'm pretty sure something else is probably going to be dropping, and then I'll continue subscribing. So I think Disney Plus has kind of got me hooked for infinity and beyond. Netflix is also the other must-have. There's always something on Netflix dropping that I want to watch. I feel like this is why like people always argue, American Netflix always has much more movies and stuff. I'm like, there is so much Netflix original stuff these days that are you telling me you don't watch any of this fucking shit? But that's the reason I like having Netflix, not to have access to other stuff. It's basically for their original stuff. So that's always a must subscribe. And then after that, it's like Stan can come and go depending on what it's actually showing at the time, because I'm subscribed at the moment for Preacher. If there's nothing on after that that's coming, I'll unsubscribe for a month or two or whatever it takes. Then I'll resubscribe when Better Call Saul or whatever else happens to pop onto there. So that one drops in and out. And then Amazon, I would say I'll drop in and out, but it's like I'm always paying for my Prime membership, and that just comes
That's
with it.
a yearly
So
thing, yeah.
It's a yearly thing, yeah. So, yeah.
Nick?
Look, I'm just resigned to the fact it's another streaming service that I'm going to be paying for.
So you're going to have to get
because
all
you know Disney is going to do the smart thing and do, once Mandalorian finishes, there'll be something else for another 8 to 10 weeks, and then there'll be something else after that for another 8 to 10 weeks. So it makes it harder to do the drop in, drop out kind of method if you want to stay current with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah. I mean, for a year, $6 something for a month, that's fine. I think if it goes up again in 12 months, I'll have to reevaluate, but for the foreseeable future, it'll just be another one that I have.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. I feel like it's pretty much a necessity. I'll also point out that they're working with a cable company to crack down on password sharing. Does that impact you in any way? Does that make you concerned that they're going to be cracking down on like you giving out your password to 20 different friends and them all using the same account?
They're going to pick up on this stuff if your login detail IP address has been picked up in like really
weird places,
far away locations, like weird places.
I thought but
if it's like close together, I doubt they're going to get.
I thought most of them limit it anyway with the amount of devices you can have connected at any one time anyway.
Oh, you do, but then like people add their friends and whatever else and stuff like that. So, but I reckon like even if I lived in different houses, right? So even if I lived, say I live 10 minutes away from a bunch of different people here, all the IP address is going to show up as Launceston. So I reckon that wouldn't pull up a red flag. Whereas if it was coming up Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, you know what I mean? Like really far away.
Sucks for the people that travel daily for work. They get locked out and can't watch what they want to watch.
No, because I suppose it would pop up only one device and it's moving. Yeah. It's the same as when they ban people in Pokemon Go. You log out, log into a different phone, but you suddenly are in one place and then suddenly you're in Rome. Oh, that's weird. Like, how'd you get over there to catch Pokemon?
That doesn't make sense. What does it matter for Pokemon Go?
They ban people people stay at home and they play it on their computer, and it's called spoofing. So like they use a thing that basically so they can move across the world to all these different raids and whatever they want without actually moving anywhere in the world, and they ban those accounts because it's against terms of service.
We'll also point out Disney will also offers the option to watch on up to 4 screens at the same time and can register up to 10 devices total, with each Disney Plus account able to hold up to 7 profiles. They'll also include 4K support at no extra charge. Does that make Netflix go, man, maybe we do need to drop down our 4K to be part of the base package?
Nah.
So none of this affects Netflix in any way. They'll just keep chugging along.
I find most of it would affect you and I because we're savvy about that kind of thing. But most of the people who are subscribed to Netflix aren't doing it for 4K streaming or anything like that. They just do it because, oh yeah, I'll sign up to Netflix. Like my parents, for example, I'll sign up to Netflix to watch the stuff on there. They're not as in tune, I guess, with the industry as we are, in a way.
Yep. I tell you what, it would be really bad if there was another streaming service also planning to come out in November. But that's exactly what Apple TV is planning. Apple TV Plus is planning to do, looking to launch its subscription service in November. It's rumored to be $9.99 a month. Is this service dead on arrival?
It is for me.
I would treat it like a stan, and I would unsubscribe and subscribe to watch stuff if I want to. It's never going to be a consistent thing, unless they announce unless I decide I want the games thing as well, and they do like a one and all package or something like that, and it's cheap enough. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I'm not hyped about this either way. It's going to come out, and I'm going to be like, okay, cool. What's on here? Do I want to check anything out? I'll probably subscribe for the free trial, 14 days, so I can talk about it on here, and that'll be that.
Yeah, I don't know. With the Apple TV Plus, it's interesting they haven't announced anything other than originals. So what else is on the thing? If you've got 10 series and that's it, is that really worth $9.99 a month? No, clearly not. I did watch the trailers for both The Morning Show and Dickinson. They look pretty good. They look pretty high quality, but I'm not going to pay. Well,
yeah, but if I can subscribe for $10, watch them, then unsubscribe. I'm not going to say subscribe.
I mean, I was about to say I'm not going to pay $10 to watch that, but I probably would. I mean, if you're going to rent a movie, I mean, you'd pay half that much.
I'm happy to pay $10. Yeah, you pay $6.99 to rent a movie. I'm happy to pay $10 to watch a TV series for 1 month.
Yeah. Also point out, it's interesting that recently Foxtel has been working to integrate Netflix into their set-top box UI. So it becomes all the Netflix recommendations are included in the UI, so you can just easily get to any Netflix content through your Foxtel box. And they're also currently pushing like a free Netflix 6-month trial if you sign up for a box anytime soon. Is that the future of the Foxtel set-top box?
This to me is just basically helpful for people who don't have a smart TV or a Chromecast, and they're like, how the fuck do I watch Netflix? I don't have any of these things. And now they're like, oh, you can now do it for your Foxtel box, and it's like, woohoo. But for anyone else, this is a non-story. This is just whatever. It's not some weird partnership between the two companies. It's literally just you can watch Netflix through your Foxtel box, with your Foxtel box acting like a Apple TV, like the app on your phone or what have you. Sure, it does have that thing where like it shares a recommendation thing, but so does my Apple TV. It literally will bring up a thing and link in Stan and Amazon and Netflix, all stuff into one mingled thing, like through the home menu there. So it's just the same sort of thing. It's a whatever. When the original news story was dropped, everyone was freaking out like they was going to do some weird partnership, but they didn't. So it's like whatever.
But do you think Foxtel tries to get more of these companies to let them do this?
I think they will. Yeah, I think they just start trying to get all apps on there: Amazon, Stan, Disney, whatever.
Well, if anything, it's a reason for people like who aren't tech savvy to go, I'll just keep Foxtel around.
Yeah, which is the smartest move they can make, especially if all these companies are sort of moving towards a streaming future.
Yeah,
if they can have on the box, Foxtel also lets you watch Disney Plus, Netflix, Stan, Prime Video. To the uninitiated, they go, ooh. They don't realize they have to pay for all of them separately and whatever.
Well,
else.
actually, I believe you can get them all on the same bill, which could be, for certain people, that's super helpful, I guess.
I guess.
Yeah.
Then you truly realize how much you're paying for Foxtel.
My $300 a month bill.
It's also interesting, I saw that the Doom Patrol and Swamp Thing, the two DC Universe series, are coming to Fox 8 on Foxtel.
Oh, good.
So there's a pretty good chance. I'm guessing HBO Max isn't coming in here, and we'll see a lot of their content getting sold probably to Foxtel out of any company. So that's the future on that. So, and then the only other piece of streaming news, YouTube is shuttering pretty much all its scripted programming, and all of its YouTube originals will be free to watch starting September 24th. So arguably another streaming service sort of giving up on being part of this streaming service boom, I guess. You'll still pay for premium, but it's mostly just for getting ad-free YouTube.
And the Google Music that Nick uses, or
Google
whatever.
Music as well would be a big plus. So.
Yeah, YouTube Music, yeah.
Yeah. So
This was the first one to fall, and it makes
I
sense.
feel like nobody subscribed to YouTube Plus or Bonus or whatever it is for the original content.
well, Cobra Kai was such a massive hit.
Well,
apparently,
put an asterisk in that. Cobra Kai reviewed well.
yeah.
It was among fans considered. I still have watched it, and I do want to watch it because I've heard nothing but good things. But everyone was saying it's so good. But you want to tell me that most general schmo blow out there knew that YouTube actually had a fucking original programming streaming service going? No, they didn't, because it was horrible UI interface to get to it, to figure out what to do. What am I paying for? What is this thing? How do I get it on my TV? Do I go for the YouTube app? Where do the things go? It was the most I could have predicted this would be the first to fall, and many more will probably fall as the years continue, but this one made sense. I know you're probably sad about that show that you reviewed on the website, Ash. What's that one called?
Wayne.
Fucking
28 million views for the first episode. So that's pretty good. So hopefully it gets picked up somewhere else. They're trying to get it picked up somewhere else.
So hopefully that gets picked up. Hopefully Cobra Kai gets picked up and whatever else. And that's sad, of course. But as a streaming service, I'm not shocked that the YouTube one failed, considering it was just shit promotion and defined and everything like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's move on to the other massive story of the past 2 weeks. Deadline broke the story that Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige won't produce any further Spider-Man films because of an inability by Disney and Sony Pictures to reach new terms that would have given the former a co-financing stake to going forward. It was a dispute that had taken place over the past few months at the top of Disney and Sony that essentially nixed Feige and the future involvement of Marvel from the Spider-Man universe, sources have said. Let's see. Disney asked that future Spider-Man films will be 50-50% co-financing arrangement between the two studios, and there were discussions that this might extend to other films in the Spider-Man universe. Sony turned that offer down flat, which is not unexpected, seeing as Marvel was previous receiving 5% of first gross dollars for the last few films.
Which
so
they already get all the merchandising profits.
yeah, so Sony gets all the motion picture stuff for the solo Spider-Man films. Marvel gets the 5%, and then Marvel can do everything else with Spider-Man. Nick, you're a huge Spider-Man fan. What was your initial reaction?
My initial reaction, based on the original article, was, I can't believe Sony's doing this, but since then, more light has come out, and it's basically Disney that are fucking them over. But at the end of the day, they're both corporations, and both of them are evil, and it just sucks. It just sucks for every Spider-Man fan. Honestly, like, it just going ahead, like, it's really hard to be invested not knowing that it's not going to be a part of that anymore. At this stage anyway.
At this stage.
Talks could, yeah.
Talks could still get back together, but
Disney does not need that fucking money. It's just an effort on Disney to lowball and weaken the Spider-Man brand, so later on down the future they can buy the rights back.
Yeah. So the history was that Marvel back in the early 1990s was pretty much going late 90s was pretty much going bankrupt. And the only way that they figured that they could keep themselves afloat was to sell the movie rights to certain properties. They sold the X-Men franchise to Fox. That turned out to be a massive hit for them. They sold the Spider-Man to Sony. That also proved to be initially a massive hit for them. And then with Iron Man, they decided to make their own films and sort of keep... After they could bring in the royalties and that kind of thing, they had enough capital to start making their own films. And
For
obviously
those who
that's been
don't
a
know,
huge
this
success.
is Marvel when they were their own entity, not owned by Disney.
When they weren't bought by Disney, which was, I think, 2008, something like that.
Yeah.
Around the time the
It would
first
have been-
Avengers film came out.
Yeah.
So,
I
a while
thought
ago.
it was earlier than that, yeah.
No, I'm pretty sure the first Avengers was out by Paramount or somebody, but yeah. Dylan, what were your
2009
thoughts
they
initially?
acquired Walt Disney
2009.
got them. 2009. I just laughed when I saw the original story when I woke up. I was like, this is fucking hilarious. Because it's such a fucking weird story. Like, I cannot believe that this stuff happens. It's kind of nuts. And of course, there was a split second. I'm like, well, that's weird. Like, that's a bit disappointing, I guess, because we've spent years building up this character. I guess that's odd. But honestly, by the time I checked Twitter and I saw people acting like this was the fucking end of the world, I think reading so many people literally be like, I'm crying, I can't stop crying all day about this and stuff. I think it turned me into a curmudgeon to the point where I was just like, I don't fucking care. Good, I'm glad he's gone. I'm like, fucking stop overreacting. Jesus Christ. Like, you're literally like all these people yelling at Sony and being like, we're going to storm Sony and getting all in Sony movie trailers, like any of them just being like, fuck yous and all this sort of stuff. I'm like, holy shit. Like, Disney has really started an army over here without even realizing it, of all these just like brainless fucking robots who are ready to stick up a fight for their fucking superhero comic book characters and whatever else. I'm like, this is a weird world we're living in where people are sticking up for these corporations just when it's like, sure, it is an odd story. It's weird, whatever. But at the same time, I completely get. I'm kind of on Sony's side, I guess. Like,
Oh, yeah, it's definitely Sony's in the right here.
yeah. So like someone did the maps, and when I saw a tweet, I was like, well, can't fucking argue against that. Where they were like, the amount of money that Sony made off these Spider-Man movies doesn't even equal the amount of money that they made off the Amazing Spider-Man 2. Like, they made more money off the Amazing Spider-Man 2 than they have off either of these movies. So from Sony's perspective, it is like, why the fuck do they care? Like, they gave them a go and they've made less money. So I can understand why Sony's like, can you give us a little bit more? And Disney's like, nah. And they're like, well, I don't think we want to do this anymore then. And Disney's like, all right. I mean, it's disappointing for fans, but at the same time, if I just want to look at it from a business perspective, then I completely understand why Sony's doing it. I completely understand. Yeah, I find it hard to believe that people can't understand why Sony's not doing it. Like, are all you blindly loving the Disney fucking... And that's the thing, I love Star Wars, sure, what, big Star Wars fan, whatever else, but at the same time, I'm like, Disney was completely fucking over Sony on this stuff. Like, they're already making all the money. They're literally putting Spider-Man in a fucking theme park. They got all the Spider-Man merchandise. They got Spider-Man fucking coming out their asshole. But as Nick kind of hinted at before, they're happy to let it go back to Sony because Disney just hopes that, a year or two, they'll try and make another one. Hopefully it flops and... these rally of fans we have behind us don't go watch the movie, and then when Disney has to sell it, we'll grab it then. Whatever. We'll play the waiting game. We just got X-Men, Fantastic Four. We don't need this shit.
Yeah.
Fuck off. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Initially, I was of that opinion as well. I just felt like, damn, Marvel's only taking 5%. They want 50%. Anytime somebody comes in and asks for 10 times what they're currently being paid, you would say no. So, I mean, it makes perfect sense.
I still think there's a chance I'll sort it out.
I do believe there is a pretty strong chance. Sony did release a statement later in the day. They said, much of today's news about Spider-Man has mischaracterized recent discussions with Kevin Feige's involvement in the franchise. We are disappointed but respect Disney's decision not to have him continue as the lead producer of our next live-action Spider-Man film. We hope this might change in the future, but understand that the many new responsibilities Disney has given him, including all the newly added Marvel properties, do not allow time for him to work on IP they do not own. Kevin is terrific, and we are grateful for his help and guidance and appreciate the path he has helped put us on, which we will continue. So, what I believe the original deal was they were going to do 3 Spider-Man films, and then he was going to get appearances in 3 other movies, which were Civil War, Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame. The latest movie had to make $1 billion, and then Kevin Feige's involvement was guaranteed. But it sounds like Disney has pulled out because, one, they didn't get the financing arrangement that they would have liked. But I do believe that Kevin Feige's plate is like super full. And if they're only getting 5% of a movie, why would Disney let him work on a film when he could be working on rebooting X-Men, rebooting Fantastic Four?
I think the biggest thing is that they've made Spider-Man out to be the next Tony Stark-like figure. Like, it's such a central, integral part. Like, spoilers, like, a major plot point of why Tony Stark does what he does in Endgame is because of Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Like, if he wasn't such a centrally focused character of moving ahead, it wouldn't be as big a news.
Oh, it still would be massive news, but...
It would still be massive news, but it wouldn't have such far-reaching implications for the future of Marvel, I guess.
I would say it doesn't...
MCU.
I understand all that stuff, and it is like... It doesn't ruin Endgame, but it definitely will make Endgame weirder to watch in the future, with given all the Tony Stark stuff. But at the same time, I think looking at Marvel's upcoming slate, it's like, what does this really affect? Nothing. Like, it doesn't affect any of their upcoming movies at all. Also, that Sony statement to me reads like them being salty little bitches, because it's like, well, Kevin Feige only gave us a day to talk to us about Venom and we want more of his time. That's what it sounds like to me. Oh, come work on Venom 2, Kevin. No, I don't have time. I'm working on fucking Black Widow. Oh, fuck you then. We're taking him back.
I didn't get that, but you can come with your prejudices.
And I think, too, Kevin Feige would be disappointed in this news as well, because it would be out of his hands. It's all executive money-making decisions that have made all this.
Yeah, but again, as like Dylan said, what other than a Spider-Man movie was he going to be involved in the MCU going forward? They've got 3 years of content already lined up. Nothing that would hint that Spider-Man would be involved. And Sony... The reason that Far From Home came out so soon after Endgame was because Sony wanted a Spider-Man movie out in 2019. If Marvel had their way, that movie wouldn't have been out till next year. Just so we didn't know what happened at the end of Endgame. So I guess, what does a Spider-Man look like without being involved in the MCU? Is it a reboot? Do they just act like it's still part of that universe and nothing happens?
And it's vice versa. Tony Stark is such a big influence on Spider-Man. I fail to see how in any way you can make a Spider-Man movie without at least some sort of reference, and like May and Happy together and all that. Like, it's just going to be weird and just not feel right.
I do not care to watch a Spider-Man movie that's trying to continue that as the third in the franchise while continuing ignoring all the Marvel stuff. I don't care to watch that. It sounds like it'll be terrible.
Me neither.
I probably won't watch it.
I probably won't watch it. No. Yeah.
Unless there's literally nothing else going on or something like that. Like, at the moment, if it came out right now, I'll probably go watch it because there's sweet fuck all happening. But if it came out in a busy period, it would be like the last on my list to watch. Seriously, it's just like, why do I care now?
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
I feel like that's what most people feel that way. They just will go watch it anyway because they can't fucking stick to their.
Yeah, I mean,
they'll probably do some like Into the Spider-Verse shit where he gets sucked into an alternate dimension or something like that.
I mean,
I'll watch
in
that,
my mind,
I guess.
In my mind, the storyline that comes to mind is was it Brand New Day or no? What was the? So obviously in the comics, after he reveals himself, shit goes down, and Aunt May dies. Spoilers for a 20-year-old comic at this point, probably. And then he goes to a demon and gets everybody to forget his secret identity, which is what happened at the end of a certain movie.
That is awful.
So they could potentially like reboot the worlds and still have some sort of continuity. I think they could do it in an interesting way. But you're going to spend your entire movie explaining why he's not part of the MCU anymore.
Yeah, and it's going to be the same actor, which a lot of people aren't going to be able to understand. It's just going to, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it's going to be a struggle to get that on a lot of people on board. But then everybody is in love with Tom Holland, so it's it could be a really successful move for Sony. I think in the end, eventually, they'll come to some sort of agreement where maybe Kevin Feige isn't involved, but they'll still be part of the MCU or something like that. They'll need approval or something.
Talking with someone the other day that Sony would foot all of Tom Holland's legal bills if he just pulled out of his contract. I wouldn't put it past them to do something like that.
Which company?
Disney.
Oh, okay.
Just to fuck over Sony.
No, I don't think. Then they definitely look like the bad guy in this situation.
Look at all the internet. Everyone is defending Sony. Not reading the full story and just going...
Everyone's defending Disney.
Sony.
Disney, sorry, yeah, Disney.
I don't know.
People are so blind by Disney is a big multimedia driven for profit company that they strong arm people in to get the way they want.
I don't know. I mean, it is difficult to imagine an MCU without Spider-Man, but again, they've got so many properties that people just forget. They can just say, Spidey's gone into hiding because everybody knows his identity.
Remember that insect guy? Yeah, he'd tell you.
Arachnid Man.
Yeah.
Night Monkey.
Night Monkey. The guy like Night Monkey, yeah, he's just, forget everything about him.
He got killed. Crazy.
Yeah, he got dusted, actually. That was, yeah.
He got re-blipped.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully this plays out well. I mean, it's going to be in the news for the next probably few months until we see something. I mean, who knows? It could still go either way, but I feel like there's a lot of ground that needs to be covered for them to get back together. But then we never thought Spider-Man was going to be the MCU. That was such a massive news story when it first happened, and it's so unexpected. So, and really, Disney have gotten what they needed out of Spider-Man. I mean, if they hadn't have gotten that deal through, how would they have done these last Civil War, Endgame, Infinity War? Can you imagine those without Spider-Man? No. So, anyway, pretty much minutes after that Spider-Man news broke, it was announced that Matrix 4 is coming. Being directed by Lana Wachowski, with Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss. So Matrix turns 20 years old this year, and here's one way to celebrate. Warner Brothers has announced that The Matrix 4 is officially in the works. After years of rumors and tales of reboots and a revolving door of talented folks, all taking a crack at this iconic and mind-bending universe, the new film will return to where it all began. Keanu Reeves will return as Neo, Carrie-Anne Moss will return as Trinity, Alana Wachowski, who co-wrote and directed the original trilogy with her sister Lily, will co-write, produce, and direct. Dylan, I saw that you were way more happy about this story than you were about a potential Spider-Man. So, what were your initial reactions to
because
Matrix
I'm fucking
4?
sick of this shit. So, everyone gets online, the same people that share these fucking memes of, well, all they do is make sequels anymore. Well, you fuckers, stop going to all these fucking Marvel movies and go out support our actual original movies, and then stop sharing those fucking memes. Doing my head in. These same people that complain, oh, Hollywood's run out of ideas, then spend all day complaining about fucking Spider-Man, and it's the second that they announce a sequel to actually what I would consider one of the most original movies of like the last fucking 50 years, everyone's like, oh, Hollywood's out of ideas. Fuck off. You're over here trying to protect Spider-Man when they're making a sequel to an original property? Get out of my fucking house. That's my thoughts. I'm really excited for this. I think Lana Wachowski's grown. I think Lana Wachowski's grown a fucking tremendously as a director writer since they first did the Matrix. Of course, they went off and Speed Racer, Up Down Here, and whatever else. But then I think when they did Cloud
Atlas.
What the fuck is that? Well, not Cloud Atlas. It's the Netflix
Sense8.
series. Sense8. I think Sense8 is like shows that they grew more into doing more character pieces and stuff, and I think like taking that experience and stuff into the Matrix, I think is going to be super exciting. I think, and if you rewatch the Matrix, I think you can draw a lot of algorithms and like kind of connect it to potentially how they were feeling at the time, especially if you want to just take the red blue the red pill, blue pill stuff into like. Oh, that's a whole topic of like about the whole movie's basically about transitioning, and now both of them have actually transitioned in real life. So, I think that's like somewhat interesting, depending on where they could take the Matrix for and like what it could actually be about and all these other things. So, and by the way, they were showing the fucking Matrix at my cinema tonight, and I couldn't go because we're fucking recording this. So I was kind of disappointed.
20th anniversary is crazy. Yeah. So timing.
It was on one night, and we had to pick tonight to record. I was like, motherfucker.
I think the most interesting news for me personally is Lana's doing it solo, not as a duo. Is this the first time that
I believe
they've done something solo?
No.
I think I read somewhere there was a falling out.
Oh, really? I mean, I'll go watch it. I like The Matrix. I liked the sequels as much as people like to hate on them, but yeah. It's definitely shocking news, but...
Yeah. Especially 4, because of Reboot has been in the talks for ages. Michael B. Jordan has been rumored to be attached to the project for a long time. So, yeah.
Well, what's his face from the director of the John Wick films kind of leaked this a year ago. He was doing an interview prior to John Wick 3 and got asked about it. And he's like, oh yeah, Lana's doing that. Like, it's happening. And at that time, everyone was like, oh, maybe like he's just saying that they had to talk about it or whatever. But yeah, now we know. Chad Straczkowski or whatever his name is from John Wick films. Yeah, so they were obviously talking about this for some time before it got officially confirmed.
And depending on how this turns out, it will be, I guess, an argument for people going that one of them is better than the other, or the other one was holding the other one back as well, depending on how it
I think there's
out.
so much gap of time, but like I think comparing them to any of the original 3 is going to be
No. I mean the two sisters, like
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently Lily took a break during Sense8 for the second season. And then they've been working on separate projects since. So not necessarily anything to that. They could just have decided now's a good time to be working on different things. I believe one of the Coen brothers is doing some stuff by himself. And we also the success of the Green Book director. What's his name? After he split from his brother. I just feel
Farley brothers.
The Farley brothers, yes. You know.
Chris.
Yeah, again, interesting that it's 4. Interesting that it's happening now. Interesting that it's continuing the same characters. I haven't seen The Matrix since it was in... Well, I haven't seen the sequels to The Matrix since they're in cinemas, I don't think, so...
I think I watched them last year.
I don't know how it will fit. How do you continue that story?
The story is going to be so interesting.
I have a lot of theories, but we really don't have the time in this episode.
Yeah, we don't. We might have to do like a special...
Yeah, we'll have to do like an Alderaan for The Matrix.
Yeah, I'm down because
Maybe.
I enjoy all 3 of those movies. I'm one of those people
Into the Matrix.
I'm one of those people who's like...
Yeah, we'll
who's
replay
like,
Into the Matrix.
I understand that the first one's the best, like, and it is, but I also don't hate either the second or third one. I can watch all 3 and be like, I enjoy parts of these. Fine, you know.
And then the other bit interesting news is the screenplay is also being co-written with Alexander Hemmon, who was an actor on Sense8, but also David Mitchell, who wrote the original novel for Cloud Atlas. So clearly consistent collaborators. Yeah. The last piece of news I just want to mention quickly, we've pretty much been confirmed that we're getting a Breaking Bad movie coming to Netflix in October. El Camino. It'd been long rumored. We thought that Aaron Paul and Bryan Cranston were going to announce it earlier in the year. It was actually just announcing some alcohol that they're releasing. But we are getting Breaking Bad wine. That is the type of alcohol. But
it is.
How did you feel about the news when that came out?
The most interesting thing for me is that it's going to be on Netflix and not AMC.
Well, yeah, I'm super happy. I'm super pumped. I can't wait to watch it. I hope they never put out a trailer. I don't want anything. I just want to watch it.
They have put out a teaser.
Yeah, I watched the teaser, but I doubt that. That thing felt like it's not part of the movie. It just felt like it was a shot thing for the sake of the teaser trailer. It made me want to rewatch all of Breaking Bad, but I don't have time. it has me wondering how. It's hard to discuss about super Breaking Bad spoilers, even though obviously the setup for this movie is Breaking Bad spoilers. But somewhat, I do wonder how Bryan Cranston fits into the picture within it. You know, how
is he even going to be in it?
Apparently.
Yeah, all right. I didn't know that.
So
Could just be flashbacks or something.
Yeah. But I'm super pumped. I don't want to hear anything more about it, really. I don't want any trailers. I don't want nothing. Just fucking let me sit down, watch it, and I'll be excited. I consider Breaking Bad top 5 TV shows for me. So
I think it needs to do something pretty special with Jesse as a character for it to be worth it.
I have complete faith, though. Like, Breaking Bad's amazing. Better Call Saul, amazing. So, that it's 2 for 2. I have no fear. I understand a lot of people went into Better Call Saul with this whole fear of like, yeah, but does this character really need its own TV show? And they proved that Saul could do its own TV show because there was a story worth telling there. So looking at this the same way, it's like, does Jesse need this story told? Well, they proved that they did that with Saul. So I'm going to say, yeah, I have complete faith in them. They're Vince Gilligan and fucking whatever his name is. I can't remember his name. So they're the showrunner on Saul and stuff like that. The team they've got there, superb writers, superb.
Cool. All right, we better move into the what do we end up watching segments. Dylan, what did we end up watching?
I don't remember.
Yeah, well, fitting.
It's called
Nick. What did we end up watching?
Stories We Tell.
Can you describe the whole story in your own words?
What? The entire story? I guess I better pee first.
I'm interested in the way we tell stories about our lives, about the fact that the truth about the past is often ephemeral and difficult to pin down.
Well, I guess if you could start by describing Mom in as much detail as possible.
My memory of Mom is she was a fun person at parties, that she laughed loud.
Michael was a private person, and Diane was not a private person. She yearned for more.
She was very warm, full of life. But I do think it's really interesting to look at this one thing that happened and how it's refracted in so many different ways.
All right. Yes, the 2012 Canadian documentary, directed by Sarah Polley. It is a film that excavates layers of myth and memory to find the elusive truth at the core of a family of storytellers. I had to pick this episode. I was recently reading through IndieWire's Best of the Decade list of films. This was listed at number 34 on the list. It was shortlisted for an Academy Award. It was one of the best in the top 10 Canadian films, or 10, was it? Toronto International Film Festival's list of top 10 Canadian films of all time, and number 10. I remember hearing it being mentioned back around that time on different podcasts I was listening to at the time, and was always heard good things and never got round to it. And they always said to not go into it knowing anything. So I said the same thing to you guys. Based on what you just said, Nick, I get the feeling you didn't enjoy this film.
As a documentary film, on a technical level, it was good, but I just could not give a fuck about any of it. I just did not care.
Okay. Would any particular reason, or is it just the people didn't connect with you, or you weren't interested in the story?
Yeah, the story. I just found it boring. I just couldn't get interested into it.
Could you tell what was gonna come, or do you felt like you knew what was going to happen?
Up until I fell asleep, yeah.
You fell asleep?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is how uninterested I was in it.
Is that a first? I think that's a first.
No, I've fallen asleep watching movies before.
No, what about what did we end up watching, though?
I know, I definitely fell asleep a few times in Citizen Kane.
Okay. Dylan, did you stay conscious the entire time?
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
I'm not saying it's a bad movie, but did not care in the story.
It wasn't for you. That's fine.
I
will say that they did post an interview with Sarah Polley, and she said one of the things she's most surprised is that people think it's an actual movie. So I guess you're not one of those people.
No, it's a documentary. Definitely, yeah.
I enjoyed it. I kept forgetting its name and all this stuff because you told me to go and not knowing anything. So I proceeded to literally not IMDb it, not watch a trailer, not anything. And then I turned on Stan to go find it because you said that's where it was. And I was like, what is the name of it again? Go find the message, find out what it's called, watch the movie. And it's a really weird experience because, of course, I'm sitting there literally. It's really weird these days to watch anything without knowing anything. I just click play and I'm like, I know it's a documentary, right? It says documentary on Stan.
Yep.
All right, documentary. Because up until that point, I had no idea it was a documentary. I learned it was a documentary a minute before I started watching the movie. So I press play on now the documentary that I know. And for the first half hour, I would say I was very like, okay, like, especially the first 10, 15 minutes. It does a lot of just like the songs playing and it's just kind of setting up all the quote unquote characters or people, introducing them to you and whatever else. And it takes a while to kind of fit all its pieces into place, but because once I understood what it was, which is Sarah Polley, who I recognized, I was like, I know this girl, and then I did IMDb her quickly, and I was like, oh fuck, it's the girl from the remake of Dawn of the Dead. Yeah. And she's also from Go, which was a movie I quite enjoyed when I was in high school, and I watched that several times. So I was like, oh shit, okay, interesting. So like a proper actress or whatever's doing this. And I'm watching it, and then you realize that it's just her interviewing her family. So once that's kind of set up, you're like, okay, so it's just her interviewing her family about her mother. And that's what it is for the most part. Just her talking about her mother. Now, of course, about halfway through the movie, there's several pieces of information that just start getting dropped that kind of like, oh, this happened. And I don't think it's a big spoiler to say because, of course, she's not in it. And you kind of gather from the start that she's dead, obviously, because she's not being interviewed. And her whole family's talking about her like past tense. So you gather she's passed away at some point, and you figure that the whole point of this documentary is to talk about their mother. But then by the end of it, it's not really, well, it is about her, but it's not about her death. It's about her. It's about her daughter, who's Sarah Polley, and it's about their family and how they're connected. And I would definitely say, and this is why I'm going to say that I don't know if we should actually talk spoilers, because I went in not knowing anything, and I would actually say I really enjoyed the process of discovering everything as I went. Now, I've already told everyone listening more than I knew going in, and I would say that if you are into experiencing the story the way I think it definitely should be watched, which is how Ash suggested, going in blind with what we've literally discussed now. And I would actually say that I don't think we should discuss the spoiler elements as much as we usually do, because most of the time, there's no way anyone listening to this has watched this. You know what I'm saying?
No.
No way. So,
well, there's probably a very select few.
There's
but
no
I feel
way
like
people are listening to this.
That too. They stopped after we talked about Spider-Man. I really enjoyed the film. I think there are some issues that are just basic documentary things, I think, but it could be like a storytelling thing. I feel like they could have clarified a bit better how everybody was connected to Sarah Polley. By the end,
I understood, though.
Each person was. Yeah, by the end.
It's confusing at first, but by the end, I understood who everyone was and where they related to.
Or at least the main players. Well, yeah.
Yes.
I really enjoyed I guess she gets small thing. She gets her father to record like a voiceover or a long monologue, which I thought was really well done, and they intercut back to that, like the actual like a behind the scenes filming in the studio, which I thought was very well done. I don't know whether she purposely got him to repeat certain lines or not. I guess you could read into that if you wanted to, but I found it interesting the way that things unfolded and where the story was told, and sort of you thought you knew what her mother was like, and then there was a reveal halfway through that I didn't see coming about her past. Mm-hmm. So it's much harder to talk about this without.
No, I'm saying, but I don't want to ruin it because I do think
Yeah, I
it's
know.
definitely worth watching blind.
Yeah. But I think the real meat of this is probably the last 10 minutes when they talk about how we tell the stories, what is the truth of stories, and how do we get to the truth of things, which I think was her aim going into this. And I don't know if she got to it.
There's
kind of
one person in the movie near the end says the whole thing about the only person who could really tell the truth of this whole story is your mother, and she's not here. So we're never actually going to have the whole truth of this scenario, you know. So it is interesting because it is literally a whole bunch of people talking about someone who's passed away. And could you say for sure that anything anyone said in this thing is 100% accurate? No. Which is why literally the last thing in the movie made me laugh out loud.
Yeah, do you watch after the there's like a 30-second blank screen, and then they cut back to another interview.
They cut back to a guy, and then they say something, and then he says something, and then it made me laugh. Because I was like, fuck, isn't that the point of the movie? Like, it's quite funny.
But yeah, this was definitely worth a watch. I don't know if it's like the 34th best film of the last 10 years, but each to each his own. But definitely worth checking out if you got a Stan subscription or if you can find it. I doubt it's on DVDs anyway.
It's experimental filmmaking. So
it's definitely experimental. She definitely went into it without knowing what she wanted to do with it.
Yeah, it's like we're just going to film a bunch of shit and we're going to edit it together later, and this is what we've got. So, which they literally talk about in the movie. People are like, you're just filming shit, and however you edit this is actually going to tell a tone of what truth exactly you're telling. And you can edit people's stuff out and so on. So it's like, as much as you want to record people talking for 8 hours straight, giving their quote unquote truths, you're the one editing this at the end of the day, and you're still going to shift the narrative. And she's like,
yeah. Yeah. And I will say her oldest brother is the one I found the most engaging interview out of all of them, I think.
The gay brother?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I was trying to think of it because I looked them all up, right? All of her family members. He works in the film industry as well. He's a casting director.
Yeah. Well, he worked for his mum. That was the thing.
Yeah. I didn't know if he was still working, like what the go was.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's still a working casting director till today, so does lots of stuff.
Crazy. Does lots of stuff. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode of What Do You Want to Watch? Nick, where can people find you when you're not sleeping through films?
On Trakt at Lord and Prior, Prior.
Dylan?
Find me on Twitter and Trakt at Vivaladil, Vivaladil.
And you can find me on Twitter at Ashley Hobley, ASHLEYHOBLEY. You can follow the Explosion Network, which this is a part of, at Explosion Pod on Twitter. You can go to youtube.com/Explosion Network to see all our video content, or find this podcast on there. It's just a title square, but you know, we get views. Or you can go to explosionnetwork.com to see all our reviews, other podcasts, including the before mentioned Radio Moobies, and Alderaan Explosion returning in the next week. Subscribe on all good podcast services. Send us an email if you've got any requests, any ideas for the show at mail@explosionnetwork.com. Of course, if you want to help us out, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser, or send us some nice tweets so we can retweet and say thanks, or just tell people about the show. Tell them that we had this incredible 2-hour discussion that involved a lot of talk about Disney Plus and a lot of talk about Spider-Man, and we talked about corporations, because that's what excites everybody in the film industry. That's what they want to talk about. Thank you very much for listening, and until next time, keep watching stuff, I guess.
Get ready to revisit Kevin Smith's classic Askew universe, starting with Clerks, all the way through to Clerks 2, when myself, Dylan Blight, Ryan Betson from The Pop Culturist, and Buddy Watson from DashGamer.com revisit the classic 6 trilogy movies that make up the Askew universe ahead of Joey and Silent Bob Reboot, which will be coming to Australia at some point. But we're getting ready anyway, and we're going to be talking about all the things we love about these movies, our history with them, the first time we watched them, and lots of different things. Come along for the ride, make sure you subscribe, and get ready to listen from inside your local Mooby's restaurant. Snoochie Poochies.